Creative Studio 7 is running. You can see these are the only two patterns I have in the pattern database at this time, because these are the patterns that I have been looking at to use on a quilt. So I'm going to go to File. Here's something I like about 7. You see you have New Project, Open Project, or here is Recent Projects. This is a project I have been working on. It's on the machine. So all I need to do is select that project and it will bring it up for me. Then once I have it up, you can see I only have 2 rows left to quilt. Click on my project here, and this shows me the patterns that I have been looking at to use on this quilt. So there's just a group pattern, a quilt group with those 2 patterns on the screen to compare them, and I selected this pattern for this particular quilt project. So that is how I set things up, and that's how, and I like this recent project capability of just bringing that back on the screen. So I'm going to continue working on this quilt. I had rolled the quilt before I quit and relocated everything. So this morning I came and I placed the needle at the start point of the first repeat in the last row quilted, and you can see it's pretty close, but it's not exactly on. So what I've been doing, now that it's this close, I will just place I'll move my machine a little bit to a spot that I know is a good reference point, and place the needle there. And I'll look at this, I'll scroll way in, and you can see it's not quite where I need it to be. I need this line there, of this curve, to be on the line. So instead of doing another relocate, I'm simply going to move all of the patterns into position. I'll just go up to the all here, which is select all, and let it select everything. Now here's something, and this is in the book if you want to look things up. If I just use the up and down arrows, if I press the up arrow, this is going to move quite a distance there, more than what I need. Okay, so he also has built in some features that will let us move it a small amount at a time. I'm holding down the control key and I'll hit that. Now with the control key you can see it really moves a great distance. I'll do the same thing with the alt key and see what happens. Now it moves slower with the alt key. I'll move that so that this curve is sitting right on the horizontal crosshair, and that should line everything up. Side to side, it is pretty well lined up. I'm going to hit the escape key to unselect all of the patterns. Next thing I'm going to do is make my boundary and see how everything is going to line up. Then I can move it left, right to get that all in place. Okay, now I'll just use my I selected these 2 rows, and I'm going to use my wedge arrow on the left to bring this over to the left some, and then use the wedge arrow on the right to move everything back inside the boundary. It's a little bit touchy, so get that as close as possible to where I want it. Next thing I want to do is make sure this comes all the way out to the edge of the quilt. I'll get a node. I know I can use F7, but that's okay. I'm just used to clicking and getting that, bring that out. I want that to be in the edge of the quilt, so it'll be underneath the binding. Go and do the same thing on this side. Get the nodes. I didn't have to reselect the nodes because I already had nodes selected. Bring this out to the boundary. And hit escape to get out of that. So I'm all set now. So it looks like it's going to be ready to go. And this is, as you quilt and roll, you see you're going to have this type of situation occur. And if I want to, I'm going to select all of these that's been quilted and then just scroll in and take and move everything over to the left, just to keep things sort of lined up on the screen. Okay, that's probably pretty good right there. This appears to be still too far over, so I'm just going to bring it back even with what you see. I know you probably don't think about it, you don't account for it, but as you quilt and roll, you have shrinkage, so this area gets out of alignment with the next area to be quilted, because now your quilt is getting more narrow because of all the stitching. I've placed the needle right at the bottom of this curve, and you can see there's where my needle says it is up there. And again, I'm going to just select all, which means I'll select all the patterns on the screen and use my up arrow to move everything. And if I hold down the control key and press this, we can see here I can just move everything up, get it up close. Now I'll hold down the Alt key, and I think that makes it move very small amount. This is just a way that you can relocate other than use a point. So move that right up to where that's where the crosshair is, and I think that's starting to look good. Zoom in a little further. Right about there works. That's close enough. So I've moved the entire pattern group on the screen up into position. All I need to do now is draw a boundary and make sure that the sides are fitting within the boundary the way I want them to, and quilt the last row. I had two repeats. I had to make an adjustment here because of the unevenness in the bottom of this quilt. So what I did was move this one up and this repeat up. Now I have a situation here where these are disconnected, and this one is selected. I can hit F7 and get my nodes. I'm going to divide this at this point, hit the D key to divide it, select this, and I can just move this down and connect it to that. I'll turn on the in snap and snap it to there, turn off the in snap. I'll take and use this and smoothing out that curve a little bit. Go over to the next one and do the same thing. Just select it, divide it, and then grab it, bring this node down, turn on the InSnap, turn it down there, turn off the InSnap. Use this to make this a little bit more smooth, and now I'm all set. So that's all I need to do there. So I'm all set with this and ready to stitch this out. I'm ready to stitch out the rest of this.